Hey friends, welcome back. You're listening to the Still Bible, where the teachings of Jesus flow softly like calm waters, bringing peace to your heart and rest to your soul. Tonight, we settle into the quiet embrace of the evening. Outside, the olive trees sway gently in the night breeze, their silvered leaves catching the pale light of the moon. Perhaps a candle flickers softly on a bedside table, casting a warm glow across the room. Or a fan hums quietly in the background, offering a gentle rhythm to accompany the heartbeat. The world outside has slowed, and in that stillness, the heart leans towards something unseen, yet deeply present, waiting to soothe, waiting to comfort. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, share your location and local time in the comments so we can imagine resting together across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's reflection together. In the quiet, Jesus' voice seemed to emerge soft and tender, as if bending close to hear the whispers of the weary heart. His words moved like a gentle stream over smooth stones, washing over worry, fear, and the tension that it built throughout the day. "Come," he seemed to say, "rest here with me. You are not forgotten, you are not alone." Even the soul, heavy with burdens, could feel a slight easing, a soft exhale that came from being known, truly known. There was no judgment, no pressure to be anything more than the tired, anxious self. In that quiet moment, the heart could simply exist, and the weight it had carried so long began to feel lighter. The night, in all its stillness, often magnifies inner struggles. Thoughts swirl in the mind like restless currents, worries about tomorrow, regrets from yesterday, uncertainties that seem too large to bear. Yet Jesus' whisper cut through the dark, like the faint glow of a lantern in a shadowed room, steady, unhurried, illuminating only enough to bring calm. He reminded the soul of a truth that never changes, even when darkness gathers, even when the heart feels unseen or unimportant, His presence remains. Every sigh, every quiet fear, every tear that slid silently down a cheek was met with steadfast love, patience that never faltered, and a warmth that never left. He spoke softly to the lonely, the anxious, the restless, those whose hearts often felt invisible. "I am here," he seemed to murmur, "even when no one notices, even when you feel unseen. I am with you." The words wrapped around the soul like a comforting shawl, and the tension that had gripped it began to loosen as though a gentle hand had been laid upon a tight chest. The heart began to breathe in rhythm with the quiet around it, inhaling peace and exhaling fear. In that simple act, the soul recognized something profound. To be held by Him was enough, always enough. In the stillness, The beauty of being known and loved without condition became clear. No dramatic miracles, no visible spectacles, just a presence that held the heart tenderly, a steady companion in the night. The flickering candlelight mirrored the gentle pulse of reassurance. The soft rustle of leaves echoed the constancy of care. And even the darkness seemed to listen, respectful and still. Every small heartbeat became sacred, a gentle reminder that the soul was not abandoned, that every lonely moment could be softened by His quiet presence. Jesus whispered peace into a weary, anxious heart, and though the world continued its quiet hum beyond the walls of the room, the soul began to settle. Fear of being alone loosened its hold, even if worries lingered. Trust began to rise like a slow, steady tide, carrying the heart toward rest. In that quiet, sacred space, the soul understood something simple and eternal. Being known by Him was enough, always enough. The night lingered with a soft hush, as if the world itself was holding its breath, allowing room for gentle presence to settle into every corner of the heart. In the quiet, those who carried unseen burdens felt the tender touch of Jesus' attention. It was not loud or commanding, but soft, patient, and unwavering. He reminded them that even in moments when the mind raced with worry or loneliness, they were never truly alone. His presence did not depend on circumstance or action. It was a steady truth, quietly surrounding them, like the gentle embrace of a warm breeze moving through olive trees on a still night. Jesus often whispered reminders of God's nearness in ways that required no grand gestures. A heart weary from the day could feel it in the pause between breaths, in the gentle cadence of a quiet prayer, or in the soft illumination of moonlight spilling across the floor. "I am here," He seemed to say, "even when the noise of the world drowns out everything else. I am near." The soul, sensing the truth of this presence, could lean into it, allowing the anxious thoughts to slow, allowing the chest to release tension it had held for so long. It was a subtle yet profound lesson, that comfort often comes in quiet, simple whispers, not in grand proclamations. There were those who felt isolated, even in crowded rooms or during busy days, their hearts heavy with unspoken fears and doubts. To them, Jesus offered a companionable stillness. He did not rush them, did not demand explanations for the ache in their hearts. Instead, He simply existed near them, a constant presence in a world of unpredictability. In the gentle folds of that nearness, their hearts discovered a fragile but growing hope. Each worry seemed slightly less sharp, each pang of doubt slightly less biting, as if the soft weight of His presence could absorb the edges of anxiety, leaving the soul feeling held even in the darkest hours. The quiet reminders of God's presence often arrived in ordinary moments, unnoticed at first. A flickering candle, the distant song of night birds, or the cool air brushing the skin. Each became a tender symbol of companionship. The heart began to notice these subtleties, recognizing the whispers in the small miracles of everyday life. Jesus' voice was in these moments, not demanding attention, but inviting recognition. I am with you. Do not fear. Do not despair. There was a rhythm to it, a gentle, steady cadence that spoke directly to the soul, weaving calm through restless thoughts like threads of light through shadowed fabric. In these quiet encounters, a deep understanding was not conditional upon perfection, achievement, or even awareness. It was a steady, sustaining reality, quietly watching over every heartbeat, gently guiding every thought. Even when the mind felt scattered or the soul weary, the awareness of this constant nearness created a soft space for rest. An anxious heart could exhale, releasing the tension held so long, and inhale the reassurance that no matter how isolated one might feel, divine companionship was always near. Jesus' gentle reminders of presence were like a river flowing softly through a dry valley, nourishing every dry, cracked corner of the soul. Each whisper carried the same truth, that no one is ever truly alone, that even in silence, unseen by others, there is always a witness to every sorrow, every fear, every quiet hope. The heart that had long felt unsteady began to learn what it meant to be anchored, held securely in hands that would never let go. And as the night stretched on, the soul began to rest, embracing the reality that the Creator's nearness was an enduring sanctuary, a soft shelter from the storms of the world. In that gentle, calm space, even the most anxious thoughts could relax. Each worry felt lighter, each fear softened, because the heart remembered the quiet truth whispered over and over, that in every moment, in every circumstance, God's presence is unwavering, tender, and infinitely near. The soul, listening to these subtle reminders, could finally begin to rest. The night air was cool and still, wrapping around the world like a soft blanket, carrying with it a quiet sense of expectation. In that calm, a lonely soul often stirred, feeling the weight of isolation pressing against the heart. Yet even in the deepest stillness, a gentle presence moved closer, subtle and unassuming, as though stepping softly across the floor of the spirit. Jesus, in his tender way, drew near to those who felt unseen or forgotten, offering the warmth of companionship that did not demand anything in return. "You are not alone," his quiet voice seemed to murmur, a steady promise against the hush of the night. A lonely soul can carry many forms of ache: the emptiness that comes when words are unspoken, the heaviness of burdens borne in silence, or the subtle fear that no one truly understands. But in these tender moments, Jesus' nearness became a light, subtle yet unwavering. He did not interrupt or crowd the space, but offered a quiet closeness, like a gentle hand resting on the shoulder of someone who has wandered far from comfort. Each heartbeat felt accompanied, each breath softened, as if the very rhythm of life itself echoed his presence. It was a companionship that transcended words, flowing in the simple, unspoken assurance of being held. He reminded the heart of the intimacy that comes with being known deeply. Even in the absence of conversation or visible support, Jesus' presence offered a profound understanding of every thought and feeling. Every quiet tear, every sigh, every lonely thought was received with gentle care, never met with judgment, but with an awareness that resonated like a soft echo in the soul. The lonely heart discovered that its cries, even the ones it could not voice aloud, were heard, felt, and cherished. In that realization, a subtle peace began to bloom, replacing the harsh edges of isolation with the tender warmth of divine company. The world often measures companionship by proximity or visibility, yet Jesus' way is different. His closeness is not limited by space or circumstance. It is a presence that slips into quiet moments, filling empty corners of the spirit with gentle reassurance. The soul, attuned to these whispers, began to notice them in the soft cadence of a breath, in the quiet sway of leaves outside a window, or in the tender pause between one thought and the next. Each moment became a reminder that love does not always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives softly, tenderly, and with perfect timing. As the heart allowed this awareness to sink in, even the heaviest loneliness began to transform. The weight of being unseen lightened, replaced by a feeling of belonging that did not depend on anyone else's notice. Jesus' presence became a companion that walked silently alongside, listening, comforting, and holding without expectation. Each anxious thought could rest in the assurance that the soul was recognized, valued, and enveloped in a love that never faltered. Loneliness, once sharp and isolating, softened into a quiet awareness of divine fellowship, steady and enduring. Even when the world felt distant, when the mind wandered through memories of neglect or disappointment, Jesus' companionship remained. It was patient and unassuming, never hurried, never harsh. Each whisper of reassurance carried the weight of eternity, that no soul is ever truly left to stand alone. The heart could finally lean into this reality, trusting that the gentle presence beside it would not falter, would not leave, and would not grow tired. In that still, reflective night, a lonely soul felt a quiet bloom of warmth. It was the gentle realization that companionship is not always measured by proximity or speech, but by the presence that holds the heart tenderly, quietly, and faithfully. And in that presence, loneliness began to dissolve, replaced by the intimate comfort of being fully known and deeply loved. The night stretched quietly over the land, a blanket of deep indigo and silver stars, and with it came a subtle invitation to release the weight of fear. In the stillness, hearts often felt their anxieties magnified, the shadows of worry appearing larger than they truly were. Yet even in the presence of those fears, a gentle, steady voice whispered calm into the soul. Jesus, with the tenderness that only comes from unbroken love, reminded the heart that trust could grow even in darkness. "Do not fear," he seemed to say, "for I am near. Even when shadows gather, you are not alone." Fears, though persistent, lose some of their power when met with quiet reassurance. The heart, tense and restless, began to soften under the influence of his presence. Each shadow that had loomed large in the mind felt less threatening as the memory of his kindness rose like a soft glow. Trust, like a seed planted in fertile soil, began to take root in the quiet spaces where fear had once dominated. The gentle cadence of his voice, as if spoken just for the soul listening in the dark, offered a rhythm to cling to, steady, calm, unyielding. It was a trust that did not require understanding every circumstance, only the willingness to rest in the truth of his nearness. The night can be deceptive, making moments of solitude feel heavier than they are, as though each fear were amplified in the silence. Yet Jesus' presence brought clarity, revealing that even in the deepest quiet there is light. The heart remembered past moments of gentle provision, of invisible hands carrying burdens, of quiet victories over anxiety that had gone unnoticed by the world. Each memory became a soft reminder. The same peace that had sustained before was still present now. And in that gentle recognition, trust began to bloom, not as something forced, but as a natural response to being known and held. He spoke not with grand declarations, but with whispers of assurance, the kind that seep into the heart slowly, quietly, and completely. You may not see the path ahead, and the night may feel endless, his voice seemed to say, but I am with you. My love surrounds you, even when your heart feels small and trembling. The soul, weary from battles unseen and worries unspoken, could finally lean in to the comfort of this presence. Each anxious thought softened, each pulse of fear eased, as the understanding sank in that trust is not blind, but rooted in the constancy of divine companionship. Even when the mind wanted to wander into what-ifs and uncertainties, the heart could return to the still center where Jesus quietly waited. His presence offered a rhythm of calm to follow, a steadying beat in the chest, a warmth in the chest that could not be shaken, a gentle peace flowing through each breath. Shadows, though they still existed, became less menacing, simply the natural shape of the night around the light that never left. The heart began to rest in that paradox. The night is still dark, yet it is filled with unwavering light. Trust in Jesus grows not through the absence of fear, but through the gentle, persistent reminder that love is constant. Each moment of worry met his presence and slowly softened under its warmth. The heart discovered that fear, when surrendered to him, becomes a pathway to deeper calm and stronger faith. Even in uncertainty, even in quiet desperation, trust could bloom because the one who watches over the soul is tireless, patient, and near. As the night deepened, the heart felt a subtle lifting, a lightness that comes when shadows are acknowledged but not allowed to dominate. The gentle assurance of divine companionship, steady and unwavering, allowed the soul to settle. Fear did not vanish completely, but it no longer held control. Trust in his nearness, in his soft whispers, in the quiet constancy of his love, became the foundation upon which peace could rest. And in that understanding, the soul felt its first true relaxation of the night, the gentle unfolding of a heart learning to lean fully into him. The night had deepened, and with it, the world seemed to exhale a quiet sigh. The air was soft and still, carrying the faint scent of olive trees and the subtle rustle of leaves as they moved gently in the cool evening breeze. Somewhere, a distant bird's song lingered like a whispered melody, barely audible but unmistakably alive, threading through the calm of the night. In this serene darkness, a weary heart found itself drawn to a small, gentle invitation to rest, to release, to surrender into a quiet trust. And in that sacred stillness, Jesus' presence was unmistakable, subtle yet profound, as if every breath carried the weight of divine assurance. Resting beside still waters, the heart felt a strange mixture of relief and reverence. The world's worries, heavy and relentless, had no power in this space. Each anxious thought that had clamored for attention now floated away on invisible ripples, carried gently toward a place of peace. Jesus' voice, calm and tender, seemed to follow these ripples, soft as the wind across the water. Come to me. Lay down your burdens. Let the worries drift away. You are not alone. Even when the mind resisted, clinging to old fears or old pains, the soul could feel a subtle loosening, a quiet release, as if the presence of love itself was enough to soften the tightness in the chest and the tension in the shoulders. The heart, so often accustomed to carrying its fears alone, began to sense a delicate trust forming. Each thought, each whispered worry was met with a gentle reassurance, an unseen hand holding the edges of what felt too heavy to bear. In this calm, the soul understood that rest was not simply a pause from labor or an absence of activity. True rest was the act of surrendering every burden into the hands of someone wholly faithful, wholly present, and wholly loving. The waters beside which the heart rested were not just imagined, they were the mirror of a stillness that exists in the presence of Jesus, a calm that reflects the constancy of divine care even when storms rage beyond the night. In this sacred reflection, memories surfaced, moments when his kindness had appeared in quiet ways, unseen by anyone else. Perhaps it had been a timely word, a subtle guidance in a choice, or an unexpected comfort in a day marked by struggle. Each memory was like a small stone dropped into the waters, sending ripples of gratitude and peace across the heart. And as the ripples spread, the soul began to understand the depth of accompaniment that had always been present, even when it had been unnoticed. The realization brought a gentle smile to the spirit, a warmth that seeped slowly into every corner of tiredness, reminding the heart that companionship is often quiet, steady, and unwavering. The quiet of the night seemed to echo this lesson. Even when the world is still, even when one feels alone, rest comes not from the absence of trouble, but from the presence of unwavering care. Jesus' whisper moved through the soul like a soft current, a rhythm that matched the heart's own longing for peace. Each inhale and exhale became a prayer, silent and unhurried, a conversation carried in the stillness, a way for the heart to recognize that every burden could be placed gently into hands that would not falter. There was no hurry, no expectation, only the unbroken presence of love and the soft invitation to lean fully into it. In these moments, the soul learned that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the companionable presence of someone who understands every unspoken ache. The waters may reflect darkness, the night may stretch endlessly, yet the heart no longer felt isolated. Each whisper of reassurance, each soft thought of divine nearness carried the promise of unwavering support. And slowly, tenderly, the soul surrendered completely, allowing every worry, every anxious pulse to dissolve into the stillness. It was here, beside these imagined yet real waters, that the heart tasted a rest so deep it could anchor even the most restless spirit. In the quiet rhythm of night, wrapped in gentle presence, the weary soul could finally breathe freely. Every fear, every burden, every quiet ache was cradled tenderly in hands that would not release. Trust deepened, peace expanded, and the heart settled into the profound simplicity of being fully known and tenderly loved. In that sacred moment, the soul discovered the truth Jesus whispered over and over, that rest is always available when we lean into His presence, that calm is always possible when we let go, and that no one, no matter how weary or lonely, is ever truly alone. The night had grown deeper, draping the world in a soft, velvety darkness that invited reflection and quiet contemplation. Moonlight spilled across fields and rooftops, painting gentle silver streaks on the surfaces it touched. A soft breeze whispered through the olive trees, brushing against leaves and carrying with it the faint, comforting scent of earth and bloom. In such a night, memories often rose unbidden, surfacing from the recesses of the heart, some bright with warmth, others tinged with sorrow. And yet, even as these recollections stirred, Jesus' presence settled close, a quiet and steady companion, reminding the heart that every memory, every moment was known, and every wound could find healing in the calm of his nearness. Memories of his kindness often arrived subtly, like small lanterns illuminating a darkened path. Perhaps it was the recollection of a gentle word spoken when the soul felt weak, a quiet encouragement that had seemed fleeting at the time but had taken root deep within. Or maybe it was a moment when guidance arrived unexpectedly, a door opened that had seemed closed, a provision given when none was expected. Each memory became a soft light in the night, reminding the heart that Jesus had never left, never faltered, never ceased to care. These recollections carried the power to soothe, to warm, and to remind the soul of a constant truth. In every season, through every trial, divine presence is unchanging. He whispered not in grand gestures, but in tender, intimate ways, letting his voice resonate with the cadence of the heart. Do you remember the times you felt alone, yet found strength beyond your understanding? He seemed to ask. Do you recall moments of quiet provision, unexpected encouragement, and subtle guidance? Each memory, recalled in the gentle stillness, became a thread weaving the heart into the larger tapestry of divine care. Even the faintest recollection seemed magnified in the night, a reminder that every act of love, every tender whisper of reassurance had been a seed planted to grow resilience and peace. The heart, once heavy with worry and uncertainty, felt the weight of past kindness lifting, replaced by a soft recognition of the constancy of care. There was a delicate rhythm to these reflections, like waves lapping quietly at a shore, steady, unhurried, and restorative. The soul began to understand that divine comfort often works in small, unseen ways. Moments that seemed insignificant at the time carried a profound significance when seen in the light of reflection, each a quiet testament to a love that never wavered, a guidance that never ceased, and a presence that never withdrew. Even the darkest memories, when viewed alongside these gentle reminders, began to soften. Pain that had once seemed sharp and relentless became part of a broader story of care and attention, a story in which the heart is never abandoned. Jesus' nearness offered a space to reconcile these memories, not by erasing them, but by surrounding them with tenderness and understanding. In this way, the soul could honor its past without being trapped by it, recognizing that each experience had been held, even in moments that had felt unbearably alone. In this reflective night, the power of memory worked alongside the power of presence. Every recollection of kindness, every echo of divine attention created a sanctuary within the heart. The soul could sit with these moments, breathing in peace, exhaling tension, and feeling the gradual settling that comes when one realizes the constancy of divine love. Memories of past care became a gentle ladder, each rung lifting the spirit higher into trust, peaceful surrender, and a quiet understanding that divine presence is the unbroken thread running through all of life's moments. And in this gentle stillness, the soul discovered a serene joy, the same love that had guided yesterday, that had whispered hope in past struggles, and that had cradled the spirit in unseen moments, remained steadfast tonight, tenderly surrounding and protecting, quietly illuminating even the darkest corners with unwavering care. The night had settled into a deep, velvety calm, the kind that allows the world to feel paused, as if the earth itself had exhaled and drawn its breath into a gentle, unbroken rhythm. Outside, the leaves of olive trees stirred softly in the cool breeze, the rustle like the quiet murmur of a lullaby. Somewhere in the distance, a faint mite bird called to its mate, a single note echoing through the stillness. And in this sacred quiet, the soul found space to breathe, to release, and to lean fully into the tender, unwavering presence of Jesus. The heart, often burdened with worry and unspoken anxieties, began to feel the comfort of a love that speaks not through loud proclamations, but through soft, intimate whispers. Comfort comes softly, he seemed to say, arriving not with grand spectacle, but with quiet intimacy, the kind that seeps into every corner of the weary soul. The heart, so accustomed to carrying its burdens alone, could now feel a gentle easing of the tightness that had gripped it for so long. Each anxious thought was met not with judgment or rebuke, but with a still, patient reassurance, like a warm hand resting steadily over the chest. In the silence, the soul discovered a sacred space, a sanctuary woven not from walls or furniture, but from the tender presence of someone who knows every thought and every ache, and who holds each one with unwavering care. He guided the heart into this sacred quiet as if walking alongside it, never rushing, never speaking louder than necessary, allowing the soul to find its own rhythm of release. Each sigh of relief, each small recognition of rest, became a thread connecting the heart more closely to divine peace. Jesus' voice, subtle and soft, carried the weight of eternity while remaining gentle enough for even the most fragile spirit to hear. I am here. You do not have to carry this alone. Lay your worries at my feet. And in those words, spoken silently yet powerfully, the soul felt the tender truth of companionship, a reassurance that echoed in the quiet chambers of the heart. Even in the midst of lingering doubt, the soul began to notice the small, almost imperceptible ways comfort manifested. Perhaps it was in a memory of past mercy, a moment when help arrived unexpectedly, or in the subtle warmth that spreads across the chest when one leans in to trust. Each of these gentle reminders became a quiet affirmation of presence, softening the edges of fear and fatigue. The heart began to recognize that true comfort does not always arrive in moments of dramatic change, but often comes as a steady, unbroken companionship, patiently waiting through the quiet nights and the ordinary days. Prayer, too, became a conduit of this gentle comfort. Even unspoken, simple words of surrender, whispered inwardly, were received and cradled. Jesus did not demand eloquence, only the openness of a heart willing to share itself in the quiet. And as each prayer slipped softly into the stillness, the soul felt a warmth like sunlight filtering through clouds, subtle yet undeniable. The tension in the shoulders eased, the tightness in the chest softened, and the rhythm of the heart began to match the cadence of divine reassurance. Comfort, the soul realized, is not something we grasp. It is something that finds us when we pause, when we trust, when we allow ourselves to rest in the nearness of love. The night continued its gentle unfolding, stars twinkling faintly across the vast sky, the air carrying the tender hush of creation at peace. And in that sacred quiet, the heart learned a profound lesson, that comfort is never hurried, never forced, and never conditional. It arrives quietly, softly, persistently through every breath, every thought, every whisper of divine attention. The soul, long restless, began to notice a subtle shift, a lightness, a soft unfolding of trust, a deepening of serenity that did not depend on circumstance or understanding. Jesus' whispers of comfort reminded the heart that even when the world felt heavy and the night long, love was steadfast, present, and patient. No moment of sorrow, no pang of loneliness, and no lingering anxiety was too small or too large to escape the tender attention of his care. The soul could rest in this knowledge, allowing comfort to wrap around it like a soft, protective blanket. Each heartbeat became a quiet affirmation that, even in the silence, even in the dark, the presence of Jesus remains steady, gentle, and unwavering, carrying every burden and quieting every fear. By the time the night had deepened into its softest hours, the soul felt an undeniable peace, a quiet reassurance that it could trust the unseen hands holding it, guiding it, and comforting it without cease. Even when the world offered no visible signs of care, this divine companionship had become tangible, softening every fear, calming every worry, and cradling the heart in the enduring embrace of presence and love. "Comfort comes softly," he whispered, and in that softness the soul finally learned to rest fully, knowing it was never alone. The night had settled into a profound stillness, the kind that wraps the world in quiet and invites the heart to lean into peace. Outside, the wind moved lazily through the olive branches, their soft rustle like the faint murmur of a lullaby. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a gentle silver light across the earth, and the world seemed to breathe alongside the soul, slowing, resting, and opening to the presence of something sacred. In this tender space, the heart began to sense the quiet patience of Jesus, a presence that carried burdens without complaint and lifted the weight of anxiety with a care that was both gentle and steadfast. The heart, often impatient with its own struggles, learned slowly that divine care does not demand immediate understanding. Jesus carried burdens in a way that taught patience, guiding the soul toward a soft surrender that did not erase challenges, but reshaped them into a space of trust. "Be still," his presence seemed to whisper, "and allow me to carry what you cannot. I am with you, even when the path feels long, even when the weight seems too great." There was no hurry in his guidance, no pressure to move faster or to understand more. Patience was not simply a concept, it was an experience, unfolding in the quiet rhythm of night, in the gentle cadence of breath, in the subtle release of tension that had gripped the heart. In this tender, slow surrender, the soul began to notice the small miracles of accompaniment. Each thought that had previously spiraled into worry now found a gentle counterpoint in his presence. Even moments of doubt, previously sharp and intrusive, were met with soft reassurance that calmed the restless mind. Jesus' care was not loud or demanding, it was subtle, persistent, and tender, teaching the heart that patience is born not in force, but in quiet observation and trust. The soul, sensing this, began to relax, letting go of the need to control every circumstance, and allowing divine guidance to shape the unfolding night. The patient care of Jesus also revealed itself in the natural rhythm of the heart's own breath. Inhale, exhale, steady, unhurried, a rhythm that mirrored the constancy of His presence. Even the smallest moments, the gentle flicker of a candle, the soft rustle of leaves, the quiet hum of distant life, became reminders that patience is woven into the fabric of existence, that every heartbeat carries a message of gentle endurance, and that the soul itself is being carried along in a current of unwavering care. As the heart rested in this space, a realization began to grow. Patience is not merely waiting, but trusting. Trust that burdens can be shared, that fears can be softened, and that even in silence, someone deeply loving watches over every thought and every step. Jesus' quiet presence became a guide through the restless corridors of the mind, showing the soul that even its heaviest anxieties could be held tenderly without being crushed, that even its deepest doubts could coexist with love that never falters. In this understanding, patience and trust intertwined, forming a gentle rhythm that echoed across the heart, steadying it in the midst of uncertainty. The soul began to recognize that divine patience is a teacher of peace. Each worry placed in His care was not dismissed, but held with intention, each fear acknowledged without judgment. The gentle rhythm of His presence taught that burdens do not vanish instantly, but when offered into His hands, they are transformed, softened, guided, and carried with a love that never tires. Even when night seems long, even when sleep is slow to come, the soul can rest in the assurance that every concern is met with care, and every anxious pulse is cradled in patience. In these hours of quiet reflection, the heart felt a settled, deepening trust. The restless mind began to slow, the tension in the chest eased, and the weight of worry became lighter under the tender, unhurried care of Jesus. Patience was no longer a distant ideal, but a living presence, experienced in every breath, every soft thought, every quiet recognition of companionship that does not falter. Even the smallest moments of surrender carried profound meaning. The heart discovered that it could release control, that it could entrust itself completely, and that even in the most uncertain circumstances, it was carried with perfect patience. By the time the night deepened fully into its calmest hours, the soul had embraced a gentle surrender, feeling its burdens shared, its fears softened, and its trust strengthened. The patient presence of Jesus had guided it slowly, tenderly, and unerringly, creating a quiet sanctuary where the heart could rest, knowing it was held, known, and loved completely. Even as the world slept, the soul rested in the deep assurance that patience is a gift of love, and that every burden entrusted to Him is met with tender, unwavering care. The night had grown deeper still, carrying with it a hushed serenity that seemed to wrap the world in a tender embrace. Moonlight filtered softly through the leaves, casting gentle silver patterns across the ground, and the distant whisper of a breeze through olive branches added a subtle rhythm to the quiet. In this sacred hush, the soul felt the gentle insistence of Jesus' presence, a reassurance that neither darkness nor distance could diminish. Each breath, slow and steady, became a conduit for peace, and every heartbeat seemed to echo the tender promise whispered across the night, "I am with you. You are not alone." Even the most anxious hearts, those accustomed to racing thoughts and restless nights, began to feel a subtle shift. The weight of worry that had pressed heavily upon the chest started to loosen, as though each concern had been acknowledged and gently carried away. Jesus' presence did not demand understanding or immediate release. It simply offered itself, patient and unyielding, a steady companion in the stillness of the night. "Come to me," his quiet assurance seemed to say. "Bring the burdens that weigh you down, the fears that seem unending, the quiet loneliness that clings in the dark. Lay them before me and rest in my presence." In these hours of profound stillness, the soul realized that divine companionship often comes not with fanfare or visible signs, but in the quiet, steady assurance of presence. Every silent tear, every whispered worry, every unspoken fear was held tenderly, as though each were a fragile treasure placed in hands that would never let go. The heart began to perceive that even the smallest gestures of love, the unnoticed provisions, the subtle comforts of the day, were expressions of a divine attention that never wavered. Trust grew quietly, gently, like a small flame spreading warmth through the cold corners of a room. The night offered an invitation to lean fully into this awareness. The soul could imagine laying every thought, every concern, every quiet ache into the hands of Jesus, allowing them to be cradled by a presence that knows intimately the contours of the heart. In this surrender, there was no pressure to have all answers, no expectation of perfection, only the gentle promise of steady companionship. The darkness of the night, once so heavy and intimidating, transformed into a safe sanctuary, a place where fears could be softened by the simple truth of unwavering love. Even memories of past struggles, long carried in quiet secrecy, began to be touched by a gentle light. Jesus' nearness reminded the heart that no difficulty, no sorrow, no moment of isolation had gone unnoticed. Every unspoken worry had been received, every silent plea had been heard, and every quiet ache had been met with tender care. The soul, sensing this, felt an unfolding relief, a recognition that true rest comes not from the absence of trouble, but from the assurance of presence, a presence that never falters, never departs, and never grows weary. The rhythm of the night seemed to mirror the rhythm of divine attention. Inhale, exhale, steady, unhurried, deliberate. The rustle of leaves, the faint hum of distant life, the soft glow of moonlight across the floor, all became gentle reminders that even when the world feels vast and lonely, the soul is cradled by something infinitely steadfast. Anxiety softened under the weight of these reminders, and a subtle calm began to permeate every corner of consciousness. The heart understood that it did not need to carry every burden alone, that even in darkness it was deeply known and tenderly held. Jesus' whispers in the night invited the heart into a slow, restorative rhythm. Each word, each gentle thought of reassurance became a lifeline, anchoring the soul amidst uncertainties. Even when the mind wanted to wander into fears of the future or regrets of the past, the present moment offered a sanctuary of steady love. Trust blossomed quietly, tenderly, as the heart recognized the constancy of divine care, a love that is unbroken, patient, and ever near. As the night deepened further, the soul allowed itself to rest fully in this awareness. The restless thoughts eased, the tightness in the chest softened, and a profound sense of peace began to root. Each heartbeat became a soft echo of His presence, each breath a gentle reminder of the tender attention surrounding it. In the hush of the night, the heart discovered the quiet truth Jesus had been whispering all along, that no matter how heavy the burdens, no matter how lonely the moments, no matter how deep the darkness, the soul is never truly alone. The night had settled into an even deeper stillness, a calm so profound it seemed to stretch endlessly, inviting every weary soul to pause and breathe fully. Moonlight spilled across the earth in gentle silver streams, illuminating the soft contours of the landscape and casting shadows that moved quietly with the breeze. The world outside was hushed, yet within the heart there stirred a gentle awakening, a subtle recognition that even in moments of solitude or fatigue, the presence of Jesus was unwavering. His nearness did not shout or demand attention. It flowed quietly, patiently, like water into the folds of a parched valley, bringing refreshment and calm where worry had long resided. Loneliness, a weight many carried silently, often felt insurmountable in these quiet hours. The heart that had wandered through days of unmet needs, unanswered questions, or unspoken fears now began to sense a subtle but profound companionship. Jesus, tender and unhurried, whispered reassurance into the corners of the spirit that had long felt isolated. "I am with you," His presence seemed to say, "even in the moments no one sees. Even when the night feels long, and even when your heart feels heavy, you are not alone." Each thought of doubt or uncertainty that had once pressed so tightly against the soul now softened under the warmth of this gentle reminder. He reminded the heart that true companionship is not always measured by proximity or conversation. It is a presence that quietly watches, listens, and holds, never faltering, never judging. Even when the world seemed indifferent or distant, the soul could rest in the assurance that every tear, every sigh, every quiet longing was known and deeply cherished. The heart, sensing this steady attention, began to release tension it had held for too long, feeling the subtle yet undeniable truth that it was carried tenderly, safely, and completely. Memories, long tucked away, surfaced gently in the quiet night. Perhaps it was a moment of unexpected kindness, a time when a need was met just when it felt impossible, or a fleeting glimpse of beauty that lifted the heart amid daily struggles. Each recollection became a soft affirmation that divine care had always been present, guiding, sustaining, and comforting, even when invisible to the human eye. The soul recognized that these small, tender moments were threads weaving a larger tapestry of love and faithfulness, a quiet reminder that the same care continues to hold the heart in the present moment. Jesus' presence also invited the heart to notice the ordinary subtle wonders surrounding it. The cool air brushing against the skin, the rhythmic sway of trees in the night, the faint shimmer of stars, all became whispers of divine companionship. Even the simplest aspects of creation carried the profound message that the soul is never truly alone, that every detail of life is observed with tender attention, and that a love more constant than the rising moon flows silently through each moment. The heart, once restless with worry, began to soften in response, learning to recognize comfort not only in words, but in the gentle rhythm of life itself. In these quiet hours, trust began to deepen. The heart realized that surrendering burdens doesn't mean losing control, but allowing them to be carried by a presence stronger and steadier than anything the soul could muster alone. Even fears of the future or regrets of the past were met with a patient, unyielding reassurance that every moment is known, every concern is held, and every heartbeat is accompanied. The night, once a mirror of isolation, transformed into a sanctuary of closeness, where every sigh and every breath could find its rhythm with the divine presence cradling the soul. Prayer, silent and unhurried, became a natural conversation with the heart of God. Words did not need to be carefully formed or repeated endlessly. Even the softest whisper of longing was heard and treasured. The soul experienced the profound intimacy of being fully known, of being held without condition, of being accompanied through every unseen struggle. In this realization, the restlessness that had clung to the chest slowly melted away, replaced by a calm rhythm, steady and unwavering, that mirrored the patient presence of Jesus himself. By the time the darkest hours settled into stillness, the soul had embraced the tender assurance of companionship. Anxiety softened, weariness eased, and a sense of calm rooted itself deeply, flowing through every thought and every pulse. In the quiet rhythm of night, the heart finally understood the gentle truth Jesus whispers repeatedly, that even when the world seems distant or indifferent, even when fears linger, and even when moments feel unbearably lonely, His presence is constant, tender, and unwavering. The soul rested fully in this profound truth, cradled by the assurance that it is forever known and forever loved. The night had settled into a deep, unbroken calm, where the soft glow of the moon and the quiet rustle of leaves seemed to invite every heart to pause, breathe, and rest. Shadows stretched across the landscape, yet in their depth there was no fear, only the gentle assurance of presence. The soul, often restless in the hours when the world slept, felt a subtle invitation to slow, to release, to let go of the relentless need to manage, control, or understand. And in this sacred stillness, Jesus whispers threaded through the heart, tender, unwavering, and patient, reminding the spirit that even in solitude it is profoundly known and wholly accompanied. Pain, grief, and the invisible burdens of the day often lingered like weighty stones, pressing on the chest and clouding the mind. Yet in the quiet night, the soul discovered a new awareness, that no suffering exists outside of his notice. No tear falls without being held in tender care. Even the smallest moments of struggle, the quiet aches that rarely find words, were embraced by his presence, transformed from isolating weights into sacred opportunities for surrender and trust. "I am here," his gentle whisper seemed to promise. "With every step, every breath, every heartbeat, you are never alone." And with that assurance, the restless mind began to release its grip, slowly, carefully, like leaves carried away on a gentle stream. The heart learned in these moments that the presence of Jesus does not erase challenges, but transforms the way they are carried. Even when circumstances remain difficult, even when nights are long and uncertainties press close, the soul can rest in the knowledge that it is accompanied by a love that does not waver. The tension that had once filled every corner of the chest softened under the quiet, unhurried care of divine nearness. Every breath became a soft reminder that comfort is not always loud or immediate. It is often tender, patient, and constant, flowing quietly into the spaces we cannot see but feel deeply. In this stillness, memories of kindness and unseen support began to surface, each one a quiet affirmation that divine presence has always been faithful. Perhaps it was a time when guidance came unexpectedly, a gentle word that brought relief, or an unforeseen provision that met a need long prayed for. These recollections, tender and subtle, reminded the soul that even the smallest acts of divine attention carry immeasurable weight. Each one was a soft thread weaving a tapestry of trust, a gentle proof that the heart is never truly left alone, that every moment of struggle has been met with patient care, and that every sigh has been received. Even the ordinary details of the night carried reassurance. The rustle of leaves, the cool brush of wind across the skin, the quiet shimmer of stars overhead, all became gentle affirmations that the soul is cradled in a world under constant watch, a world where nothing is too small to escape divine notice. The heart, so accustomed to carrying worry, began to sense a subtle release, the way a knot slowly loosens when held tenderly. In this rhythm, there was a soft lesson. Surrender does not mean weakness. It means trusting that every burden, no matter how heavy, can be met with care that is infinitely stronger and steadier than anything we alone can muster. Prayer, too, flowed naturally in this quiet, unhurried space. Words did not need to be carefully constructed or repeated endlessly. Even the softest, most halting whispers of the heart were received. Each silent plea, each quiet wish for understanding, each gentle cry for help, became a conversation carried on the rhythm of stillness, a dialogue in which the soul felt deeply known. The act of leaning into this tender presence gradually reshaped the heart's experience of loneliness, anxiety, and fatigue, allowing trust and peace to settle more fully than ever before. As the night deepened, the soul discovered that even the heaviest burdens could be placed into hands that would not falter. Fear lost some of its power under the gentle weight of divine attention, and uncertainty softened into patient hope. Each heartbeat, each quiet inhale and exhale became a tangible reminder that presence is the truest form of comfort, and that no matter how restless or weary the heart, it is always accompanied. The rhythm of night mirrored the rhythm of divine care, steady, unhurried, intimate, and constant. By the time the hours had stretched toward the stillest moments before dawn, the heart had embraced a quiet surrender, feeling burdens lifted, fears softened, and trust deepened. Even in darkness, the soul had discovered the persistent, tender truth that Jesus' whispers carry, that no matter how heavy the night, how silent the world, or how isolated the heart may feel, it is never truly alone. Peace settled gently, like a soft cloak wrapped around the spirit, tender, patient, and unshakable, offering rest that is deep, restorative, and complete. The night had deepened into a tranquil expanse, where even the smallest sounds, the faint rustle of olive branches, the soft sigh of wind, the distant hum of life, seemed amplified in their gentle intimacy. The moon hung low, casting a silver glow that shimmered across the world, painting shadows that swayed lightly with the breeze. In this stillness, the heart felt a tender invitation to rest more fully, to release the persistent tensions, and to lean completely into the quiet presence of Jesus. Here, in this sacred space, the soul discovered that companionship does not always speak loudly. It often arrives as a soft, unwavering whisper that soothes the deepest fears and quiets the most restless thoughts. The heart, often burdened by relentless responsibilities and unspoken worries, felt the subtle shift that comes with complete surrender. Jesus' presence did not demand perfection, nor did it insist upon answers or immediate clarity. Instead, it simply offered itself, a steady, patient, and tender companionship that met every anxious pulse with calm reassurance. "I am with you," the whispers seemed to say. "Every step, every breath, every sigh is known and held. You are not alone." In this stillness of this night, the soul could finally experience the fullness of this promise, allowing the weight of care and concern to be transferred moment by moment into hands that never tire and never falter. Memories of past encouragement and unseen guidance began to surface, each carrying a quiet, luminous comfort. Perhaps it was a time when help arrived just when it was needed, a kind word that illuminated a shadowed path, or a subtle provision that went unnoticed by others, but profoundly sustained the soul. Each recollection became a gentle thread weaving a tapestry of trust and assurance, a reminder that divine care has always been present, even when it seemed invisible. The heart recognized that these tender moments were not isolated, but part of a continuous flow of attention and love, creating a foundation of peace on which the soul could finally rest. Even ordinary aspects of the night seemed infused with reassurance. The soft rustle of leaves, the shimmer of stars scattered across the sky, and the delicate brushing of wind against the skin became subtle reminders that the soul is never truly abandoned. In these simple details, the heart began to notice the constancy of divine presence, steady, gentle, unshakable. Anxiety, which had once dominated every corner of thought, began to loosen its grip, replaced by the soothing awareness that the soul is surrounded, cradled, and deeply known. The act of surrendering burdens became tangible. With each slow, intentional breath, the heart could imagine placing a worry, a fear, a quiet longing into hands that hold all things with perfect care. In doing so, the soul discovered the profound truth that rest is not merely the absence of responsibility or struggle, but the active choice to trust in a presence that is tender, patient, and unwavering. Even the heaviest doubts, the most persistent fears, could be softened and held safely within the quiet, unhurried embrace of divine love. Prayer, gentle and unforced, flowed naturally in this intimate space. Words need not be precise or eloquent. Even the simplest whispers of need, longing, or gratitude were received and treasured. Each unspoken word became a conduit of connection, allowing the heart to feel known, valued, and accompanied. The soul recognized that divine attention does not depend on eloquence, circumstance, or achievement. It simply rests with the one who trusts, tenderly carrying every thought and every pulse of the heart. As the night stretched onward, the heart experienced a deepening peace that did not rely on the absence of challenge but on the presence of love. The rhythm of breath and heartbeat became intertwined with the rhythm of divine care. Each pulse a soft affirmation that no burden is too great, no fear too overwhelming, and no moment too solitary to escape tender attention. The soul rested fully in this understanding, letting go of the illusion of isolation and embracing the enduring companionship that had been quietly present all along. By these hours, the heart had discovered a serene strength in knowing that Jesus' whispers are constant, patient, and unwavering. The weight of past anxieties and future uncertainties softened, replaced by a quiet assurance that each moment of rest is held within an unbroken presence. even when sleep is slow to come. Even when shadows seem long, the soul can trust that it is deeply known, tenderly held, and never alone. In this tender, unhurried space, the heart could finally release every burden, exhale every worry, and simply rest in the gentle certainty of divine love. The night had grown even quieter, a deep, serene stillness settling over the world like a soft, protective blanket. The moon cast a pale, soothing light across the landscape, illuminating the gentle sway of olive trees and the faint shimmer of dew on the ground. In this hush, the heart felt the tender presence of Jesus close, steady, and unwavering, like a lantern placed at the edge of a darkened path, illuminating the way forward with a calm and gentle light. Each breath became slower, more deliberate, and each beat of the heart seemed to echo the comforting truth whispered across the night: the soul is never truly alone. Even in moments of doubt or fatigue, the heart could sense the subtle power of His nearness. The worries that had pressed so heavily, the restless thoughts that had kept the soul awake, began to soften under the quiet intimacy of His care. Jesus did not rush the process of healing, nor did He demand that the soul understand everything at once. Instead, He offered His presence like a steady anchor, patient and tender, inviting the heart to lean into trust. "You do not need to carry everything yourself," the whisper seemed to say. "I am with you in every step, every sigh, every silent moment of longing. You are not alone." In these deep hours, the soul began to recognize the subtle ways that love manifests, often unseen, yet deeply felt. Perhaps it was the memory of a word spoken in kindness, a provision arrived at the right moment, or a gentle comfort given when it was most needed. Each recollection became a soft, glowing thread, weaving the fabric of trust and peace that held the heart securely. The soul understood that divine care is not always dramatic or obvious, but it is persistent, patient, and unwavering. Even when life feels uncertain or heavy, love quietly carries every burden, transforming fear and loneliness into gentle assurance. The heart also noticed the small miracles in the ordinary moments of night. The soft rustle of leaves overhead, the faint chirping of a distant night bird, and the gentle brushing of wind across the skin became subtle signs that the soul is tenderly held and constantly observed. These quiet details, often overlooked in the busyness of the day, took on a new significance in the stillness of the night. They became reminders that presence can be felt even without words, that love surrounds the soul in countless small ways, and that no part of life is too insignificant to escape tender attention. As the soul reflected on these gentle truths, prayer became a natural, effortless conversation. Words were not required to be polished or formal. Even the softest whispers of longing, gratitude, or concern were received fully. Each unspoken plea became a bridge connecting the heart with divine presence, allowing the soul to feel deeply known and cherished. The act of opening the heart in this way, without pressure or expectation, created a profound sense of intimacy, as though every heartbeat were acknowledged, every thought treasured, and every worry cradled with infinite patience. In the rhythm of the night, the soul discovered a quiet strength. Surrender was not a sign of weakness, but a tender acknowledgment that burdens can be carried by a presence far stronger than oneself. Even the heaviest anxieties and the most persistent fears could be laid down, placed gently into hands that never tire, never falter, and never let go. In this surrender, the heart began to experience a profound peace, a deep, unshakable calm that is not dependent on circumstance, understanding, or control, but simply on the trust that love is patient, constant, and true. By these hours, the soul had become fully aware of the intimacy of divine companionship. Anxiety softened, loneliness eased, and the heart rested in a rhythm that mirrored the quiet, patient presence of Jesus himself. Each breath and each heartbeat became a reminder of unbroken care, and the soul allowed itself to rest fully, releasing the weight of burdens into tender hands. Even when sleep is slow to come, even when the night feels long and the shadows heavy, the heart knows it is held. This truth, whispered gently in the quiet of night, settles deeply. Love is unwavering, presence is constant, and the soul is never alone. As the world outside remained hushed, the heart embraced this truth fully. Each memory of kindness, each gentle whisper of reassurance, each subtle sign of care contributed to a growing sense of security and peace. The soul, cradled in the quiet rhythm of divine attention, finally found space to rest, to release, and to trust that every burden is seen, every fear is held, and every heartbeat is accompanied. Even in the darkest hours, even in the quietest moments, presence remains unbroken, and the soul is surrounded by a tender, unwavering love. The night had reached a profound stillness, a sacred quiet, where every sound, every breath, and every heartbeat seemed amplified in the gentle hush. The moon cast a pale, serene glow across the landscape, illuminating the soft sway of olive branches and the faint shimmer of dew on the earth. The heart, often restless and weary, felt a deep, tender invitation to rest fully, to release all lingering worries, and to lean completely into the patient, gentle presence of Jesus. Each breath became slower, each heartbeat a quiet echo of reassurance, and the soul began to sense with a comforting clarity that it was never alone, even in the darkest and quietest moments. Loneliness, which had often pressed upon the chest like a heavy weight, began to loosen under the soft, unwavering attention of divine presence. Jesus did not need to speak loudly to make the heart feel heard. His nearness was enough. Each sigh, each whispered thought, each quiet longing was cradled tenderly, received without judgment, and held with steadfast care. "I am here with you," his gentle whispers seemed to say, "through every uncertainty, every struggle, and every silent night. You are never alone, for my presence surrounds you always." In the hush of this night, the soul began to feel a soft release from the persistent tension it had carried for so long. The heart began to notice the quiet beauty woven into the ordinary details of the night: the soft rustle of leaves overhead, the gentle brushing of wind across the skin, the faint shimmer of stars overhead. All became subtle signs that divine attention is constant and tender. Even when the world feels indifferent, even when circumstances seem heavy, these small, almost imperceptible reminders carry profound meaning. The soul is seen, every moment is known, and every heartbeat is cherished. In this gentle awareness, the heart began to rest, understanding that companionship is often quiet, steady, and patient, rather than loud or dramatic. Memories of kindness and care surfaced quietly, offering gentle reassurance. Perhaps it was a moment when guidance came unexpectedly, a kind word that illuminated a shadowed path, or a provision that met a need long prayed for. Each recollection became a soft thread weaving a tapestry of trust, a tangible reminder that divine care has always been present. The soul recognized that love does not always arrive in grand gestures, but it flows persistently and tenderly, reaching every hidden corner of the heart. Even when life feels uncertain or burdens seem too heavy, this quiet, unwavering presence carries and sustains, offering rest that is both deep and restorative. Prayer, gentle and unhurried, became a natural bridge between the soul and the divine presence. Words did not need to be perfect, polished, or elaborate. Even the simplest whispers of longing, gratitude, or surrender were received fully. Each unspoken plea became a tender conversation, allowing the heart to feel completely known, cherished, and accompanied. In this soft rhythm, the soul discovered the profound intimacy of being deeply understood and tenderly held, experiencing the kind of rest that flows not from the absence of challenge, but from the certainty of compassionate companionship. As the night deepened, the heart began to experience a profound, steady calm. The fears that had once pressed heavily upon the chest softened under the quiet weight of tender presence. Even anxieties about the future, regrets of the past, and doubts that lingered in shadowed corners were met with patient reassurance. Every burden could be placed into hands that never tire. Every worry could be entrusted to a love that never falters. In this surrender, the heart discovered a profound peace, a deep, unshakable calm that does not depend on circumstance or understanding, but on the simple, gentle truth that it is wholly accompanied and wholly loved. By these hours, the soul had embraced a sense of complete safety. Each heartbeat became a soft affirmation of presence, each breath a gentle echo of unwavering care. The restless thoughts eased, the tension in the chest softened, and the heart could rest fully in the knowledge that no burden is too heavy, no fear too great, and no night too long to escape tender attention. Even in the quietest moments, when the world sleeps and the mind wanders, the soul is enveloped in a love that is constant, patient, and unbroken. The gentle assurance of divine presence became the guiding rhythm of the night. Trust deepened, peace settled, and the heart rested in the intimate awareness that it was completely known and fully cherished. In this quiet, sacred sanctuary of night, the soul could finally release every worry, every lingering doubt, and every unspoken fear, laying them gently in hands that carry all things with tender care. The whispers of love, subtle yet unwavering, reminded the heart once again, you are never alone. The night had reached its softest moment, when the world seemed to breathe in unison, quiet, slow, and still. The moon had begun its gentle descent, and the stars shimmered faintly across the sky like distant candles flickering in devotion. In that sacred calm, the heart rested entirely in the nearness of Jesus. The earlier echoes of worry had softened into whispers of gratitude, and even the faintest trace of restlessness had eased into peace. Every inhale carried the sense of divine companionship. Every exhale, a release of all remaining burdens. Peace had not arrived suddenly, but tenderly, like dawn easing its first light through the night. It came through moments of remembering, through quiet surrender, through whispers of faith returning home. The soul understood now that loneliness was never proof of abandonment. It was an invitation to discover presence in a deeper way. Even when life's pathways seemed uncertain, even when prayers lingered unanswered, there was still the steady assurance of a love that never left. You were not alone. The whisper came again, not as a phrase, but as a living truth, gently pulsing through the rhythm of the night. The weary soul began to see the beauty of stillness as something sacred. It realized that God's nearness does not always appear as a miracle to behold, but as a steady quiet within, the kind that settles anxiety and opens the heart to peace. It was not the absence of storms that proved his care, but the calm within them. For even when waves rose high and the path ahead seemed hidden, the shepherd's hand remained steady, guiding, holding, protecting. Every shadow held a purpose, and every tear had been seen by eyes that never sleep. And now, in the still glow of this late hour, the soul could sense those unseen arms encircling it. Fear had no place here. The night no longer felt empty. It had become holy ground. The presence that filled the room was not loud or visible, yet it was unmistakably real, like warmth felt before a fire, or wind you cannot see, yet know is there. The listener could almost feel the heartbeat of heaven aligning with their own, a quiet rhythm of peace whispering, "Rest. You are safe. You are loved." A new gratitude began to rise, slow and luminous, like the first light of dawn touching the horizon. Gratitude for breath, for being held, for the simple gift of knowing that love is constant, even when unseen. Gratitude for the long journey, for every moment of endurance that had brought the heart to this resting place. Gratitude, most of all, for Jesus, the one who never leaves, who walks every valley and sits beside every quiet tear, who transforms loneliness into intimacy and fear into trust. The heart, softened and still, could only respond with quiet reverence, "Thank you." Every memory of doubt, every echo of worry seemed far away now, like shadows fading at sunrise. In their place, peace flowed gently through the soul, calm and unbroken. Jesus had not promised a life without storms, but he had promised his presence within them, and that promise now glowed like a lantern deep within the heart. It no longer mattered what tomorrow might bring, for tonight the soul had found what it needed most, not answers, but closeness, not control, but rest. The quiet deepened as the night prepared to give way to morning. A tender calm spread through the room, and the soul leaned into it as one leans into the arms of a trusted friend. The air itself seemed to hum with peace, as if creation had joined in the gentle chorus of reassurance. There was no more striving now, no more holding on tightly. The listener could finally let go, knowing that even in sleep they were watched over with a love that never slumbers. The peace of Jesus settled fully over the heart, warm, steady, protective. The same peace that once calmed stormy seas now whispered softly across the mind, smoothing every thought into stillness. This peace did not ask for perfection. It only invited rest. And so the listener, surrounded by stillness and held by unseen hands, allowed the final walls of worry to fall away, resting in the truth that they were never, ever alone. And now, as this reflection drifts toward its close, let the heart rest even deeper. The night air is calm. The world outside is silent. The words that once circled like restless birds have flown far away. What remains is the quiet hum of peace, warm, steady, and real. Jesus is near, not far off in a distant heaven, but here, beside you, within you, watching over you with a love that never fades. His hands are gentle, his voice is soft, and his presence is enough. You don't have to think about tomorrow. You don't have to fix anything tonight. You only need to rest. So breathe slowly. Let your shoulders fall. Feel your heartbeat steady and your spirit exhale. This is holy rest, the kind that restores, renews, and reminds you that you are not alone. Every breath you take is accompanied by grace. Every moment you rest is covered by love. The shepherd watches over his flock, and that includes you. You are seen. You are safe. You are held. Now let your thoughts fade into silence. Let peace wrap around you like a soft blanket. The night belongs to rest, and your heart belongs to Jesus. Good night, beloved one. Rest deeply in his embrace.